Good evening and welcome to episode 216 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I am your proud host, Howard Kravitz, back from a quick one-week vacation in beautiful South Florida. Thanks for joining us tonight on a great evening as we're going to be going back to South Florida this weekend for a huge stakes card on New Year's Eve day. It's Pegasus Preview Day in Hallandale Beach, Florida at Gulfstream Park. It's going to be a fantastic card, and we're going to be talking about it with you tonight with a fantastic guest. Please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. After you do that, please smash that thumbs up button. We'd appreciate that. And also hit the notification bell so that you know when new content will arise. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter on my name tag at @HKravitz. And on the bottom of the screen, you'll see my email scrolling down there, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. As you can see there on over my shoulder there, right? Where is it? Right there. I'm already ready for New Year's Eve, ladies and gentlemen. That is the Adelphi sponsored wine. Thank you, Matt Cutera and Adelphi Racing Club, for sending me that wonderful holiday gift. Greatly appreciate that. You can listen to the show here on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Anchor. Our Power Picks. I sent this out to everyone on my email list, over 200 people. The time is now. You only have until Saturday to sign up for this special promotion that we've got for our Power Picks, which is basically a tip sheet. You get, if you sign up as an annual subscription, we're giving you 2 free months. That's right, 2 free months, which is almost a $30 value. Plus, you're going to get special preview videos that are not going to be made out for the public and other goodies. So now is the time to do that. We'd like you to sign up anyway, whether you sign up for a weekly or an annual or yearly subscription. But if you do want to sign up for that yearly subscription, you only have until Saturday to do that. Look below the video player. All the information is there. You can do it through Patreon. You see the website also there on the screen. It's patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. And the picks have been on fire. Myself, Pete, Paul, we've all given out pick fives recently of substantial values. Our spot plays have been on fire with many good opinions with some prices, including I only gave out one pick through email last week, and it scored at 5-1. So hopefully you folks cashed on that as well. In addition, we've got a new show coming up in just a few weeks. We're going to be sending out much more information as we go along. It's going to be hosted by one of our co-hosts, Kyle Roscoe. It's going to be on Wednesday nights. We're very excited. We're working on that as we speak. We'll get you guys more information about that as well. And then finally, please go to our great website, hhhracingpodcast.com, for more information about the show. All right, let's bring on my fantastic co-host who did an unbelievable job last week. Over 1,000 people watched the show, preview show for opening day, Santa Anita. So let's bring them on right now. First, the newly turned 51-year-old from Maryland, Mr. Pete Visco, and from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the Saratoga Special, Mr. Paul Halloran. Guys, late Merry Christmas, Early Happy New Year. How are we doing?
Happy holidays, everybody. Again.
I can remember when I turned 51, vaguely.
Well, as you've reminded us many times, Paul, it was not as long as people might imagine. So
that's right. Don't let the looks fool you. I'm not 80.
Were you watching Citation when you on your birthday?
No, Secretariat, Pete.
Secretariat. Okay.
We'd love to hear from comments. Guys, we got a new background. We're going to put the track that we're previewing in the background. People, a little bit hard to tell, but that is Gulfstream in the background. So Pete and Paul, we're very festive here. We're going to try to bring the themes to the shows. We'd love to hear your comments in the background instead of just our plain green screen. Literally, we're going to bring up different backgrounds. We'd love to hear your opinions on that. Guys, a lot of things going on in the news, but let's focus on Gulfstream this week. We've got a fantastic guest waiting in the background. The weather is finally turning. The weather has been crazy throughout the country. It was almost 60 degrees, guys, here in Chicago. Warmer than it was when I was in Miami for 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, as our guest can fully attest to that. I know you're going to get that warm weather, guys, out east. Gulfstream finally is drying up. They are on the turf today, Paul. I know you've been waiting a long time for it. And even one of your favorite jockeys won today, Julian Leperoux on the lead. A price shot, by the way, given out by our guest. I can't wait to talk to him about that. So,
Wow.
Paul, he can win on the turf, Paul. He can win on the turf.
Oh, he can absolutely win. It just probably doesn't happen with the frequency his backers would like.
I hear you. Guys, let's not wait any longer. We've got a great late pick five to talk about on the show. We'd really appreciate all your comments. Speaking of comments, let's see who we've got here before we bring on our fantastic guest. We've got Ross Blacker. Kyle got promoted. Ross, you missed out. Listen, we wanted to bring a new, a little younger vibe to the show, so he's going to be hosting. I mean, Pete is hosted, perhaps Paul's going to be hosting, so I suppose you can call it promotion. But yeah, we're spreading the word here. We got David Lupo. Pete looks a year older. Wow, got the Santa look going, Pete.
I was trying to, just in case Santa got sick, I wanted to be sure I was around and could fill in. So. And
we've got, this is a new person I have not seen, Jeff Duran, new to horse betting here since moved to Kentucky. Glad I found this podcast. Y'all been very helpful. Jeffrey, we love it. Thanks for joining the show, man. We really appreciate it. I love your picture there. We're going to try to get some wins. And we also got Maiden Focus is here. We got a lot of new people joining. I tweeted this out, guys. This weekend, we're going to cross 200,000 views for the show, which is absolutely crazy to me. It's awesome. And we're getting closer to 2,000 subscribers too, guys. So if you've not subscribed, please make sure you do so. All right, guys, let's bring on our fantastic guest. This gentleman has done a great job for many years in many different locales throughout horse racing. We've had him on before. I had the pleasure to see him again at Gulfstream. He was absolutely red hot today. He is the analyst for the simulcast feed at Gulfstream Park. Proud to have on from Florida, Mr. Brian Nadal. Brian, how you doing today?
Hey, Howard, I'm doing good. It's good to catch up with you and the guys. And yeah, you got hosed down here, Howard.
Brian, I joked with you. I've been down to Gulfstream twice the last 2 years. Once was for the Pegasus, when, as you can attest, it was, 55? And then this weekend, which was, I mean, it's hard to say it's brutal when there's like 3 feet of snow in Buffalo and negative 30 wind chills. I mean, I know you're very familiar with the Northeast and everything, but it was damn cold in South Florida this weekend.
It was awful. And what I say was, I know it's freezing everywhere else, but it's supposed to be freezing everywhere else. It's not supposed to be freezing. Down here, I bought my place about 3.5 years ago, and the heat does work because it was on last week for the first time. So that was, I guess we checked that box off. That was good. So yeah, it's good to see Paul. Good to have Paul on too. One of my, you said, many endeavors was working for the Saratoga Special for, oh boy, I don't know, about 8 or 10 years, I think. So yeah, go back a long ways with the Clancy. So good stuff.
It's a great organization, and we're happy to have you again, Brian. Brian, you were red hot today. I bet Gulfstream today. I thought it was a tough late sequence. You had Island, can't remember the last name, sorry, or the name of the horse exactly. The Leperoux was bet down to 3-1 because of the field, but just wired the field. You had the one horse in a synthetic 2-turn race that your best bet, that great ride, sort of split horses. Sounds like your meet's been pretty good so far, sir.
It's good now.
Okay.
It was not a good first couple days on Monday, the 26th. And the 28th, I joked that I hit the early double today, and that doubled my win total over the first 2 days.
Oh, wow.
But, it's a line drive in the box score. What have you done for me lately? So, yeah, the long shot, best bet, double hit, gave out the early pick 5 on an $18 ticket for, I think it was like $270. So that was good. And the Leperoux horse won. There was 3 scratches in the race. So I think it took out, 19 points on the morning line or so. So we weren't going to get to 12. But,
yeah.
I said it. I'm not a huge tweeter unless it's just strictly tickets and things like that. But you put Julian Leperoux on the lead, and I'll take him over anybody. He's just so good at doling it out, and he always has something a little left in reserve, and he did it today. So that was good to see.
Yeah, it's weird because we sort of came to this country as a guy that, obviously from France, and he was really patient. People would say he'd wait too long, and closers, and I've seen him many times win on horses on the lead, and it's always prices, Brian. It's just unbelievable. People still, have this feeling Leproux you can't win on the lead. I don't know why, and he took heat. That horse took heat today too, and still won. So anyway, congratulations to you on that pick. Pete and Paul, we got a lot to talk about. Brian, we got a lot to talk about. Before we get into the PP specifically, Brian, other than Colonel Liam, is there a horse that you're particularly looking forward to seeing this weekend?
Well, I'm really looking forward, Howard, just to seeing O'Connor come back. I mean, he was just devastatingly awesome in his U.S. debut. And if you look at his PPs and his Group 1 races and wins in his, before in his prior career, we'll call it, he was tangling with Super Corinto, who has come here now and been so good in 2 starts. And obviously the connections, this is Pegasus preview day, as you've alluded to, and they're hoping to go down that path. So I'm excited to see him step up against better competition on Saturday. He got all the best of it in his U.S. debut, but, he didn't have to win by 6 and with push button acceleration. So I think he's exciting, Howard. And I think we probably can all agree that we're hoping for an exciting horse at this time. We've lost, there's been a lot of turnover, obviously, and I think, at least in the handicap division now, as the 3-year-olds turn to 4 and everybody else has got to step up, I think it'd be cool to see an exciting horse develop.
Yeah, we'll be talking about the Harlan's Holiday in just a minute. Before we get to that, let's jump into the pick 5, guys. The pick 5, again, you're going to see our picks on the bottom of the screen. There they are. Brian, this is, again, the first time that everyone is seeing our picks on the bottom of the screen. The pick 5 starts in race 7 as I go ahead and bring up the Equibase entries. There they are. We'll go full screen here. It starts in race 7 at approximately 3:09 Eastern Standard Time. This is the Swanee River Stakes. It's a grade 3, $125,000 filly and mares, 3-year-olds and up. They're going 1 mile on the turf, and they will be on the turf. The weather looks like it's going to be pretty good, really, the rest of the week. This is a field of 10. The morning line favorite is the number 1, Scottish Star, an Argentine bred for Pletcher and Saez. Brian, as the guest, you're going to go first for us, and you're going to go with Shug McGahee, Junior Alvarado, number 7, Stolen Holiday.
Yeah, I don't have anything clever, Howard. I think the 4 favorites, and you could probably put the 4 favorites in a bag, jumble them up, and they might be 4 different favorites every time. But I just feel like Scottish Star, Bay Storm, Stolen Holiday, and Lady Rockstar are better than the rest. And I landed on Stolen Holiday. I'm not sold on Bay Storm getting the trip on the lead, even though she should be maybe even comfortably on the lead, but Stolen Holiday's got the tactical speed for Shug and Junior Alvarado. She's not going to let anybody get too far away. She got her comeback kind of out of the way last time, and the horse that beat her's pretty good. She was a Gulfstream Championship meet horse last year, ran in the Pegasus Wakanaka filly and mare turf, and I think Stolen Holiday maybe at least today, meaning Saturday, at a 1 mile. 2-turn mile. Maybe just she's a little bit better. Scottish Star's got to prove it too, and Bay Storm's dangerous, Howard, but I'm going to land on Stolen Holiday.
Yeah, Bay Storm's got a lot of speed. Now, I'm assuming we all handicap these races without the morning line, unless, Brian, you had some intel. I was surprised to see Bay Storm as low as 3-1. The other question I have for you, Brian, or statement or question, I thought Gulfstream turf, when they've been running on it, because it's obviously not rock hard yet, they've got a lot of rain, was sort of favoring closers, yet today speed was holding up. So do you have any clue as to how the turf might play on Saturday? I know they're running at different rail placements, though, at different races. That is something that we're going to talk about throughout the sequence.
Yeah, I tend to, lean towards speed, Howard. It's been very quick. There's been a lot of races, and you saw it today where some horses, even the nightcap, they went 46 and change, and the horse that you would have thought might have finished last off the far turn ended up gutting it out for second. You mentioned I just don't see much rain at all through the course of the weekend, which is great. I think it's behind us. It was beautiful today. It was beautiful yesterday, too. I expect a firm turf course, and I expect to see some horses rattle up front and not come back. Bay Storm is that kind of horse, so she is dangerous.
Well, Pete and Paul, you guys have the same idea. You're going with this horse. Paul, I'll let you talk first. Base Storm, as I go ahead and make the PPs a little bigger, has not gone this distance. But I guess you both are assuming this horse just will get loose and win for Jonathan Thomas, Paul.
Yeah, and I do, but and I know this horse is stretching out, but it looks, at least on paper, like Scottish Star is pretty quick, and I'm not so sure. Base Storm's just going to waltz to the lead, but I do think either way, she could get a good trip and limited sample. But Jonathan Thomas is 1 for 5 off this kind of a layoff in a graded stakes, and I think at worst, based on me, the goes, as you said, or perhaps goes with the 1. But the horse you picked, Howard, I would have very likely picked the 10. And, Brian could probably speak to this being there every day. But, boy, I think that's a tough spot in this distance on turf where the turn is pretty much comes up immediately.
Brian, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, it's terrible. There's no doubt about it. You just don't want to be out there. The run to the turn is so quick. Now, luckily for Lady Rockstar, she's not necessarily a horse that wants to be involved early, so maybe she can tuck over. But yeah, as he alluded to, it's not good at all.
Pete, anything you want to add about the 3 Base Storm? And then I've got Lady Rockstar on top. I think there is enough speed to set it up, and I know she's been off for a little bit for Brennan Walsh, but the IRAD factor I just can't ignore, guys, because I don't care if he breaks in the 15 hole, IRAD will find a way to tuck over.
Yeah, I was with you a little bit, Howard. I think the post is the only reason I thought the 10 was sort of a rising horse. And if he gets a little bit of pace, which it looks like there is here, I do like that one. It was more the post that sort of threw me a little bit, made me probably put this one in second. With Base Storm, I think I think Brian and Paul sort of said everything. I do like the fact that I don't think she needs the lead. So if say Scottish Star does go out, then I think Base Storm can sit off and has shown the ability to sit off. Plus, I do just like the incremental improvements. Now you go from, the last few races, 84, 85, 90, 99 from a buyer standpoint. Then another Jonathan Thomas stat was he was 31% win, 62% in the money sprint to route on turf. So that gave me a little bit more confidence with a horse that hasn't routed yet. So at least it's something that he has an affinity for as well. So, but I was sort of with Brian where I'm like the top 4 just seem like standouts, and it's almost going to be a crapshoot as to which one gets the best trip potentially as to who wins out of those 4.
Yeah, I think so. I'll end our conversation with the last race that Lady Rockstar ran in, and I watched the race because I was actually in Saratoga that weekend betting a little bit of Monmouth as well. That was a very slow pace. Lamista actually had tactical speed for the first time in a while. And really, Lady Rockstar just didn't even fire at all. I actually think, even though Lady Rockstar has gone 1 1/8 miles, 1 1/4 miles, 1 1/8, when you look at some of her European form, she actually was running very well at a mile. So maybe the cutback is really what she wants, and they just tried to stretch her out, guys, thinking maybe she wanted longer, but I think she'll be better going shorter. It's just sort of an opinion of mine. So I agree. It's going to be one of those 4 unless something weird happens, guys. Let's go on next to race 8. You can see our picks on the bottom of the screen right there. And we'll go to race 8. Race 8, guys, this race is a lot of fun. And Brian, look at the bottom of the screen, man. I thought I was getting really creative. Oh, yeah. I'm like, bam, I'm going to throw a long shot out there that no one's going to think. And sure enough, you got this horse on top, and Pete's got this horse second, and we just brought the damn horse down to like 6-1 now at post time. But anyway, this is the Mr. Prospector Stakes. It's a grade 3 for older males, 125,000. They're going 7 furlongs. This is a big field, guys, and wow, is there a ton of early speed, at least signed on, which is, I'm sure, what Brian and I were thinking here with our top choice. The Moyline favorite, and I got to be honest, I have no idea why, is the number 3, Sibelius for O'Dwyer and Junior Alvarado. But Brian and I are both going with a 15-1 long shot, a 3-year-old coming off a layoff, Steel Sunshine. Brian, tell everyone why we are correct. Everyone get about a $20 horse here in race 8 on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm seeing the morning line for the first time. He kind of sort of has to be 15 to 1, doesn't he? I mean, I
Yeah,
wanted
he
to.
looks slower on paper, that's for sure.
Yeah, he is slower. There's no doubt about it. He's slower on paper. He needs to really move up. I really wanted to pick Papa Cap, to be honest with you, but it's just maybe off the layoff we'll watch one. But you said it, Howard, and you hinted at it. There's just so much hitting in here. There's something, to me, something has to give. There's a lot of speed, and they're going 7 too. If there was going 6, I would say maybe some speed can last. I don't know. I'm going to play against it. And Steel Sunshine, if you're not familiar with Bobby DeBona, he's not a national guy, but he took this horse around a little bit. He took him to Ellis and he won a stake. He does really good work down here. And Bobby DeBona doesn't run horses where they don't belong. So I think the fact Steel Sunshine's in here off a layoff too. I really feel like he's here to roll, and he's going to get his setup. If he doesn't win, it's because he's not good enough. It's not because they went too slow or this and that. No, he's going to get his race in here. The question is he good enough or not? And Howard, as you said, and as I agree with, if 12, 15 to 1, we can figure out if he's good enough or not. Whereas you want 3 to 1 on Prevalence, who hasn't run in 2 starts, and you have no idea what you're getting. So that's how I played it. It's a spread race for me. If you see my ticket was 5 deep, and the dark kind of lands on Steel Sunshine.
Yeah, this is the kind of horse, Brian, that I'm a big fan of back wheeling, reverse key kind of play and tries. This is, and I've gotten a lot of people onto this bet. This is exactly the horse you want to do that with, because to me, Brian, the chance of this horse being in the money somewhere is very, very high. And even if he clunks up for third at like 12 to 1 and fills out a try, that might be good. The one thing, Brian, though, and Pete, I'll let you talk about this. We've seen this a million times where there's all this speed on paper and it doesn't, pan out that way. But as we look at the PPs for people at home that might not have seen them yet, I counted at least 5 horses that want the lead. You got Speaking's has to go from the inside, not nearly good enough. Sibelius, you would think, is going to go for sure. Papa Cat's probably more tactical. Wind of Change only knows one way. Prevalence is really best close to the lead. Uncle Ernie, what is he going to do? He has to go. I mean, I don't see any other way that he's going to go. Dean Delivers is not that slow. And then, Country Final, hard to say what he's going to be doing. Seal Beach will probably mid-pack. I mean, Pete, there has to be speed in this race, doesn't there?
Yeah, I mean, again, we always bitch and moan about it looks like speed on paper and then it doesn't come to fruition and then we're mad after the fact. But you can only go by what you see on paper. And there's 8 horses in this race with 100+ time form early pace rating. Yep. A couple of them, Sibelius and Uncle Ernie with 123. So you have to take it on faith that there's going to be some speed. And if you can like a horse that coming off the pace. And to your back wheel suggestion, Howard, I had an awesome stat. So the DeBona Reyes combo, 44% wins, 72% in the money in dirt sprints at Gulfstream, and 7 out of 9 wins and 9 out of 9 in the money in the last 9 races together. And now I don't know if there was any today. That was probably early today, last night, but it just shows that, hey, they can get a horse home in a race like this. So again, especially underneath for sure, but I think a win chance for sure. Cause I think the rest of this field is a little suspect.
Yeah, Brian, feel free to use any of those stats on simulcast. And if you want to really do us a favor, tell them you heard it here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Brian, it is fair to say, though, that none of those stats were, of course, during the championship meet, which just started against better horses. So I'm not saying he's not capable of doing it. Pete and Paul, tell us why the 4 Papa Cap is going to win this race Saturday. Pete, go first, please.
I mean, it's just one of those horses that if you just look on paper at the horses that Papa Cap has been running against, he's just finally getting some class relief. I mean, this field did not come up super strong. I mean, you see on there, Gunite, Jack Christopher, White Abario in charge at Epicenter. I mean, this horse is just screaming for a little bit of a step down in class. So if he's ever going to win a race, which he hasn't done yet this year, as you can see on screen, 0 for 6, if he's ever going to win one, dropping down against a somewhat lighter company, if he doesn't get it here, I don't know if when he's going to get it. This is his time, I think. So and especially at 4 to 1, like he looks like a horse that should be favored based on class, but he just doesn't win races. So that's problematic.
Paul, here's my thing. I'm totally against this horse, and I could be wrong. He just doesn't have gears. He just seems, I totally agree with what you said, Pete. And he's been facing the best horses, but he doesn't like to win, and he doesn't have like a turn of foot. I just think he's gotten into circumstances where he just sort of runs around the track like on the inside and makes it look better than he is. I don't know, Paul. I'm totally against this horse, but I hear what you guys are saying. He's got class.
Just real quick before Paul goes, the only thing I would say is if you look at that on paper, who was he supposed to beat that ran ahead of him? That's the only question. And I don't know if that's an excuse or not. It's just he wasn't supposed to beat any of those horses for the most part on that page. So
it's just
it makes
his
it a
running
little
lines
tough.
are just very he just doesn't
Yeah,
pass
I
people.
agree.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Paul, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to play him anyway, Howard, despite the fact that you're against him.
Are you sure about that?
My ticket might have just gone up, as a matter of fact.
I'm sure it did.
I think that when you guys went through all the speed horses, I think this horse has the potential to get a very good trip. He's not going to be in or on the lead, but I do think he's going to be in position to get a good first run. And I'm not, and I see what you're saying with Steel Sunshine, and boy, I'd love to see a Carrie Brogdon, Mac Mahal homebred win. That's a great operation. I had a chance to talk to her at Saratoga last summer. But, Pete talked about the company lines. This isn't a great move for Cassie. This type of 61 to 180 layoff graded stakes, 3 for 27. So that's not outstanding. But, with Rosario on him, I think if he can get him in position early, I like this distance for this horse. He was knocking heads with the big boys at a mile and a 16th and a mile and an eighth. And, the Woody Stevens race, well, who else did he beat? I know he lost to Jack Christopher, but he lost by 10. But that's still a real race. And I'm not so sure that second in that race isn't better than anyone in this race. So despite your negativity, Howard, I'm going to play it.
I hear you. Brian, last thing about this race. I've heard, and you're down there, so you would know that Papa Cap is considered for the Pegasus. And that's another reason why I don't like him. This could be just a prep. He's a Florida bred. I mean, I don't even think the connections really know what to do with this horse, do they?
Yeah, I mean, he's very possible he needs a race. I mean, let's just be honest. On December 31st, the Grade 3 Mr. Prospector, I'm assuming, is not the end all be all for Team Cassie. He could win in spite of it, and as Paul mentioned, he is eligible to really trip out in here. So he could need a race. The Pegasus seems like a mighty far bridge for a horse that I don't feel is a 9 furlong horse, but we can talk about that in 4 weeks from today. This is definitely a starting off point. That doesn't mean he can't win for all the reasons everybody said at 4s. That's a big underlay, though. I'd want more than that if you're playing.
Last question, Brian. What do you do with Prevalence and Uncle Ernie? Prevalence has run his best races at Gulfstream. He's 3 for 4. But this seems like a horse, Brian, that just needs a trip. I mean, if things don't go his way, he just completely falls apart. I will say I've seen his works on XBTV, and he is super athletic and looks like he's ready to go. And then Uncle Ernie, I don't know about the distance, but he's awfully sharp. These two horses, I just don't know what to do with.
I'll say 2 things. I've never guessed right with Prevalence, except in the wood. I want nothing to do with him on Saturday.
Okay.
If he wins, I'll golf clap. He was in the paddock the other day. He looked like an absolute phenomenal specimen. I know he's 3 for 4 at Gulfstream, but don't forget now he was terrible off the layoff last year. I understand the layoff this year is not the same. He was terrible last time too. I mean, let's just be honest. Uncle Ernie ran a -4 on the Thoroughgraphs last time.
Wow.
If he feels like running that on Saturday, he might literally lap the field. I don't know. He's got to step up. He is well drawn for his style. The type to me, Howard, you got to make him prove it because he's going to be a big underlay with Irad aboard too.
Yeah, if this was 6 furlongs, I'd love Uncle Ernie. This distance with other speed, I'm against him. Let's go to the next race, guys. And this is, I don't know if there's a headliner, Brian, on Saturday, but I guess you could say this is the one. It's the Fort Lauderdale, featuring, of course, the comeback race for Colonel Liam. And I have very strong opinion. Whether I'm right or not, we'll find out on Saturday. But let me go ahead and bring up the Fort Lauderdale. It's a grade 2. $200,000 is the purse. They're going 1.125 miles. And please, everyone notice this. If you can see in the middle of the screen, the rail are going to be out 56 feet in this race. And I'll let Brian talk about what that may or may not mean. In general, when the rails are out, it does help speed at most tracks. I'm curious to hear what Brian's going to have to say about this. We can see it's a big field of 12 with Decorate Invader as an AE that may or may not run depending on what happens. The morning line favorite, of course, is the number 12, Colonel Liam. This is the 2-time Pegasus Turf champion. But boy, are there a lot of question marks with this horse. 8-5 morning line. And Brian, you are going to go with Colonel Liam, but I would assume you have some reservations also.
Yeah, I guess. I don't think so. I don't.
Okay.
He's so much better than this field. The only reservation, Howard, is that obviously the screws are not, fully tightened. And that's the only reservation. He won the Pegasus last year off, a June layoff, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really bother me. The post, okay, that could be a little bit of a problem. I get that. You mentioned the rails. Typically, I would think, speed is going to play out here. My pick is kind of twofold. First of all, he's just so much better than this field. I wouldn't think he would be back for was it soon to be 6-year-old campaign if he wasn't tearing the barn down. He's not a horse that runs a lot. So, you could also kind of say maybe he is a little more cranked, because, he's not a horse that's going to throw down 8 races this year. And then conversely, Howard, if you don't pick him and maybe the guys have a strong opinion, like who the hell are you going to pick? You have no idea. Like, I don't know. I could go 7 deep without him and probably not have the winner. So I'm just going to say he's better than this group, post all that stuff. IRAD will figure it out and onward and upward.
Well, you got in second, the number 1, and this is my top pick. And I will admit, I sort of agree with you, Brian, that if it's not the 12, it could be 5 or 6 others. But this horse is getting better and better. He's got the rail. I think there's more there. It looks like they've been pointing to the spot. You could go with worse 10-1s in this race, couldn't you?
Yeah, there's probably about 8 horses in here that wish like holy heck that the optional claimer that Colonel Liam was in a couple weeks ago. He's actually on the also eligible list, so was never surprised, by the way.
Right.
They all
and never surprised lost, by the way, Tampa at 2-5. Just wanted to say.
Yeah, he didn't look that good, but
No.
It was kind of a bog up there. But back to Street Ready. He's inside. You said it. He doesn't have to lead. He probably won't lead. He's going to sit the right kind of trip, and he'll be a decent price too, because there are others in here, that will take money before him. But I agree, Howard. I feel like, even King Cause, who won the Knickerbocker last time, I kind of feel like we've seen those horses ceiling after. Street Ready's never been better, and he won from a terrible post last time, and now he's got the perfect post. Maybe he's got another move forward in him, and he's a price.
I agree with you. Paul, let's go to you. The New York bred. How did we know? There it is again. But I'll tell you what, Paul, I like this horse a lot. And I will say, full disclosure, because I want to share my love, I had a little text convo with Miguel Clement tonight. So I'll tell you guys what he said in just a minute, or I'll paraphrase. I don't want to, give away everything they had to say. But why do you like this horse, Paul?
Well, I think the horse is good, and the horse against Open Company has 3 wins in 4 seconds. So, despite the fact that he is a New York bred and has run the predominance of his races against New York breds, he's got 3 wins in 4 seconds against Open Company. He won a stake at Saratoga against Open Company in a race that he really came flying. I agree with Brian, and obviously I think the 12 is certainly the best horse on paper, but I think he's going to be 8-5 or lower. It is a very long layoff, and yes, I get he won off that layoff last year, and it is Pletcher. So, but I think where I would not be on the same page as Brian. I think if the 12 is going to lose, I think the 7 is one of the main players to do it, and I think you might be looking at 4 or 5 to 1 versus 6 or 7, 8 to 5. And I've seen the horse. I just think the horse can really run.
Paul, I have a feeling he's going to get bet. I think he's going to get bet down. I don't know if it's because Clement or just a lot of ones and Rosario. Guys, I would be surprised if like Colonel Liam is like 6 to 5 and this horse is like 7 to 2. I think this horse is second choice. I think he's going to be bet. For everyone on the panel, Miguel Clement brought up 2 minor concerns he has. Do you guys want to guess as to what the minor concerns are with City Man instead of me just telling you? What do you think Miguel has concerns about?
Colonel Liam?
No, other than that, Brian. See, this is why Brian gets the big bucks as a analyst for all these big tracks.
Well, he's never run at Gulfstream, I guess.
That's one concern he had. He's a little bit unsure about Gulfstream. There's one more which I didn't really look at carefully, and then I said, okay, I get it. It's the weight. A little bit concerned about getting the 126. Colonel Liam, amazingly, guys, is only getting 123. And by the way, Street Ready's getting 121, Brian. So I'm not a big weight guy, but 5 pounds with horses that are very closely matched, I think that's a feather in Street Ready's cap. He's run 126 before, though, Pete, and won. I'm talking about City Man. So
yeah,
I think he's was trying to nicely say he's a little disappointed that he's getting more weight than Colonel Liam, which is absolutely crazy when you think about it, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, because I guess against a horse with that much ability, you want all the advantages you can get. So having a disadvantage definitely has to hurt. But I mean, I'm with Paul on this one. I think this horse at least has shown in 2022 has really done nothing wrong except for that one run on the yielding turf. Right. And then the one run where it was sort of blocked and didn't have room and sort of had a bit of a trouble trip. Other than that, this horse doesn't really do much wrong. So it's really just, hey, if Colonel Liam doesn't fire or is just a little short and can't get up for the win and maybe, the post compromises him a bit and he gets stuck in the back, then, I mean, I'm with you. I like the 1 and the 7. So I'm sort of with you, Howard. If Colonel Liam loses, I'm on the same 2 as you.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to add, Pete? I didn't want to give you short shrift in this race.
No, that's okay. I think you guys said most of it.
Okay.
I think the only thing I liked about Street Ready too was since Saez got on him, I like when you see something on the page that helps a horse improve, and Saez getting on him, this horse has made sort of a significant jump, at least from a buyer standpoint. And he's also kept the horse closer. So he's kept him in range, and that's something Saez is always good at. He's pretty aggressive. So if he and again, now he's from the rail. So if he keeps him close, and again, if Colonel Liam has any trouble, Street Ready can work out a trip.
Yeah, hey, Brian, with the rails at 56 feet and Colonel Liam coming out of the 12, will he have to run around the Pegasus statue in the parking lot?
There's no doubt about it. It's not ideal. I don't think there's any denying that. He's got enough speed to get somewhat of position. And the other good thing, I think, for Colonel Liam is, there are a couple speeds, obviously, to his inside that maybe if just uses him a little bit, he can kind of tuck over a little bit. It's not ideal, but listen, I wish I had something crafty and sexy to give out. It's great if you don't like Colonel Liam, because the beauty of Colonel Liam is that he's going to bottom out the odds in this race, and whoever you like is you're going to get, let's be honest, City Man's favored in this race probably if there is no Colonel Liam. So if you like him and you've got the Colonel Liam in the parking lot prepping for a bigger race, you get all the best of it. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I just think this is the race you're supposed to try to beat him, even though he's very much the horse to beat. It's just one of those weird kind of handicapping situations. Let's go to race 10, guys. You see on the bottom of the screen. I swear, ladies and gentlemen, Brian and I did not talk before these races. We're just thinking very similarly here. This is the Harlan's Holiday. This is a very interesting race. There are a bunch of horses here, as I'll let Brian talk about, prepping for the Pegasus here. It's a grade 3. It's only a mile and a 16th. It's on the dirt, 150K in the kitty for older males. The morning line favorite. And again, I was a little surprised to see how low the number 1 O'Connor was, 8-5. I thought he'd be like 5-2 morning line. This Chilean bred for Safi Joseph and Edgar Zayas. Brian, you and I are both going with this horse, and I'm going to show the replay of the last, because O'Connor, Brian, was absolutely outstanding in his U.S. debut.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, too, while you show the replay. This race and his last race is the short finish line, okay? That's the mile and a 16th short finish line. And, if you're not close entering the far turn, you're not going to win. It's just too hard. You have to, but don't forget, promises fulfilled won the Fountain of Youth. If that gives any indication of how, quick this race can be. He couldn't get two turns, if they dropped him off at the top of the stretch. So I think that's important. A horse like Skippy Longstocking, obviously, again, prepping too. I feel like that's a tough spot for a galloper kind of like that. And, again, as obviously we've mentioned, this is the prep for the Pegasus. And, this horse gets set up. There's no doubt about that. He basically has to win this race. But as I said, and you're going to see him out there, the 5.
Now, Brian, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I got to ask you, to me, this is a very important question here. O'Connor is right here. Yeah. He was on the rail, and immediately Zayas, as much as possible, got him off the rail. The only concern I have Saturday, and I think it's a legitimate one, unless you give me some intel, which I'm hoping you will, is it possible that this horse doesn't want the kickback and, won't like the rail? Because if he's stuck on the rail for an elongated period in the Harlan's Holiday, that might be a problem. I just found it very weird, Brian, that he was here. If you can see he was on the rail, and now he's in the 6th path, like right away on the backstretch, which sort of indicates to me Joseph wanted to get him away from the kickback. Have you heard anything about that?
No, it's possible, but hit play, and I think you're going to see maybe why he's out there, because he would have had to run over these horses otherwise. He's on a keg of dynamite here, and I'm kind of just speculating, Howard. I don't know this, but why is he going to be bothered being down inside when you're going to see this move right here? And it's kind of a goosebump type move. And
wow.
You're not supposed to do this. So that's just my pure speculation. Okay. I haven't talked to Safi about it. I don't know. It's a legitimate, legitimate concern, or at least a question to ask on your part. I think the morning line's dead on. I had this horse at 8-5 myself. They're going to bet him. They bet him last time. They didn't have to bet him last time, and they did. And I just feel like on Saturday, I feel like he's probably better than these horses anyway. And on Saturday, with the prep behind him, with his prep behind him, and it's still significant for this horse to win a graded stakes race. I feel like in this country, I wish I had something clever for you. I just don't. I feel like at least on December 31st, he's just too much racehorse for this group here.
Now, this field, as you said, Brian, this is the toughest field he's faced. That field that he faced last time was not.
Yeah, but strong. I want to just interrupt for a second, because the horse that he was tangoing with, Super Corinto,
right,
in Chile in those Group 1 races, he's come back. He was an absolutely awesome second here in his debut, and he won again. So I do agree this is a tougher group of horses, but don't just think he's been beaten on tomato cans over there. That's a serious horse who's going to run in the Pegasus, by the way, and who has a chance to win the Pegasus.
Brian, I want to hit this pick 5 Saturday, but in a weird way, I hope O'Connor gets into some kind of trouble, doesn't win, and is like 8-1 in the Pegasus wins that, because I think the distance is better in a month from now than it will be on Saturday. And I think he'll be a fascinating horse if he doesn't win today, Saturday. If he wins Saturday, he could be, I don't know, as low as second choice next to Proxy or something in the Pegasus. So in a weird way, I almost hope he doesn't win. But yeah, I've got this horse too. I just, as long as he doesn't get in trouble, I think he's going to win. And Brian, I'll be fascinating to listen to you talk to Safi, or at least hopefully get some intel as to if he wants, kickback or the rail. But I know a lot of the tracks in South America, Pete and Paul, are not the best surfaces, and you watch replays and they got a lot of kickback, and it's just, you see like clouds of dust and stuff. So maybe I'm just crazy, but I just found that weird, Brian. You do make a good point. I guess they just figured they were tons the best and didn't want to get stuck in behind. Paul, you have the 4, who is my second choice. I think the other likely winner, at least in my opinion, Simplification, a horse that we both liked a little bit in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, and Sayas just didn't really send, and was just real passive and just was absolutely awful. I think this horse has got ability and loves Gulfstream.
Yeah, Howard, I was at the Pennsylvania Derby, and the word was Sano was very upset because Paco was instructed to go to the lead and he didn't. And so you and I thought, well, surely Saez, that won't happen with Saez in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, and he was 7th out of 9. I think back at Gulfstream, different jockey. Maybe Junior will follow the instructions. I'm looking at this horse as a possibility of just going wire to gate to wire. I get the one. I kind of think you're supposed to try to beat him at the odds he's going to be, but I do. I think Brian's right. I think the only reason Zayas got him off the rail is he knew he was sitting on the best horse. I'm hoping that wasn't the greatest field. 4 horses to run back out of that race. One of them won, but all 4 had their buyer go down in their next start. So I'm hoping that maybe that wasn't the best field, and that if I do think if simplification can.
Oh, internet issue. Pete, why don't you go ahead, Pete? You've got.
Yeah, I could finish Paul's sentences at this
I'm
point.
here.
There he
I'm
is.
alive.
There he is.
I think if he can get to the lead, presumably as instructed, I think he could be a tough customer. So, and I think the price could be okay.
Yeah, Pete, you're thinking the same thing. And Skippy Longstocking with IRAD should sit a nice trip. I don't know if he's good enough, but I mean, he has fired before, but his biggest race was in the slop. That's why I'm a little bit against the 7 personally.
Yeah, that was sort of my reasoning, and I thought maybe he would have a little bit too much to do. But I mean, he's solid. To me, this runs through the 1 or the 4. The 4 is another one who, and you could see even by the works that he seems to just like being. And I was going back to simplification quick, but you could see from the works that he seems to just like being back at Gulfstream. I mean, he's had some really nice works. He's done his best running there. He's 6 for 6 in the money. Sano isn't great winning in graded stakes races, but he did win with simplification. Was actually the one win he's had, I think, in his last 48 graded stakes races. Yeah. But I think this is another one that maybe is just screaming for a little bit less company, and O'Connor could be a big deal, but the rest of the field isn't the best. So if something happens to O'Connor, he doesn't fire for some reason, or does get, maybe gets shuffled and doesn't like the kickback, like you said, whatever it is, I just think I'd like having, and I was surprised at the 5-1, actually. I thought it'd be a little bit lower just based on who he's been tangling with.
Yeah, he'll be lower. A-Roth, by the way, agrees, Brian, that Super Corinto might be winning the Pegasus. A-Roth, thanks for joining the show. Last horse we got to talk about, Brian, then we'll get to the last race and get your pick 5 ticket. I have to bring up the Pletcher horse because it's Pletcher and Gulfstream, Brian. None of us are really giving this horse. Actually, Paul's got Pioneer Medina second. Brian, what do you think of this horse? I mean, I guess he could fire, but he's very inconsistent.
Yeah, he is, but he had a little trip last time too, and he still won to his credit. And he finally remembered, his job is to be a racehorse after 3 total no shows, albeit one of them was in the Kentucky Derby. But he takes Lasix off. I think that's something we have to mention. Those 2 races, and especially the race last time, was with Lasix. But he also has a penchant of blowing the start. If you can go to the right a little bit, it doesn't really say, but if you watch, he's not breaking. The guys did make a very good point. We haven't. I certainly didn't talk about it. There is no speed in this race. Could be a jockey's race. It'll be interesting. I do think simplification, if they want to go, it's probably there for him. Pioneer Medina. Here's the other thing too. O'Connor and maybe simplification, and certainly Skippy Longstocking. You'd like to think they're going to go to the Pegasus. They've proven they can run in that race. Pioneer Medina has to prove he can run in that race. So maybe he's trying a little harder in this. I still don't know if that matters. I still don't know if that bridges the gap because he's got a gap to bridge. But, that's it's another club to type of throw in the bag, that you've got to think about a little bit. Who maybe wants to win today, or who's trying a little harder, and then who's obviously trying a lot harder in 4 weeks from today.
Brian, loving the golf reference, by the way. This race feels like the last race, Brian. If it's not Colonel Liam, who is it going to be? If it's not O'Connor, it could be, right? It just feels the same. Let's go on the last race. And, Brian, we really thank you for coming on the show tonight. We'll go through the last race, Brian, then you'll give your pick 5, and we'll let you go for the night. I know you've been busy, and you got a big weekend ahead. Race 11, optional, claiming $25,000. 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares are going on mile 16th on the turf. I'm assuming the rails are down there because there's no rails out there. The morning line favorite is all the way on the outside, the number 11. Market segmentation for Chad and Irad, 8-5 morning line. And Brian, we are not going with the same horse. You are going to try to beat this favorite with the number 4 charge account for Fausto Gutierrez and Reyes.
Yeah, I just didn't want to pick the 11, to be honest with you. She's
Okay, fair enough.
Favorite. She's got a bad post. She's run twice, and you see the gaps. Listen, if she runs her race, she's going to win. She's going to win comfortably, and maybe she doesn't even need to run her race. With that being said, I think charge account is interesting. She's got to be a very square price, I would think, and you don't really think of Fausto's. What is she, 12? Okay, that's fine. I'll take that. You don't think of Fausto Gutierrez as a claiming trainer, and he's not. Obviously, he trained Latruska. He had a slew of 2-year-old maiden special weight winners here at Gulfstream. He did good work at Churchill and beyond, but he's in the mid to high 20s off the claim, and he's very judicious about it, and he doesn't claim a lot of horses. And he claimed this one 2 back, and he ran her at Tampa in an off-the-turfer, and she just galloped around there. So point being, she's going to run now, first turf for Fausto. Maybe she has a wake-up in her. Maybe she has a move forward in her, and maybe the post, maybe the layoff, maybe the prep, maybe a lot of different things get in the way of market
segmentation.
Well, these farm horses give you a tongue tie. So, and she's going to be, what's she going to be, Howard? 12 times the price or something like that. So,
yeah.
I would say this: if you're on a budget in this pick 5, you probably have to single the 11. And again, that's where you get a heck of a lot of other value too if you can come up with someone against her.
Yeah, Brian, she's won 9 times. This is an N1X, so she knows how to win. I don't like the fact she's in for 25. I mean, she has to be in for 25 because of the condition book. Right. I understand that, but I just, maybe they would have found another spot if she's more alive. But listen, if it's not the 11, like you just said, we've said this several times. It says your ticket construction is going to be fascinating. When I say you, I mean the public here, because there are a lot of horses you can single, yet I don't really trust a lot of them either. And I don't fully trust this 11. Pete, we'll go to you and talk about the 11. And Brian, I'll let you also talk about the 9 a little bit if you want. Market segmentation raced last time against Salima, and Salima came back, did not run well in the American Oaks. I have no idea why that horse was on the lead. That's another discussion for another day. I don't think that's a negative against the 11. At least that's my opinion, Pete. I think she ran huge that day. She was on the inside. I'm talking about the 11 now. Was on the inside last time. Got a great trip, but really ran. If she can navigate the outside post, she's going to be really tough here, isn't she?
Yeah, well, and also Salima did come back in the race after beating this horse to win and won, pretty impressively. So impressively enough to then move up to a grade 1. Yeah, went from a stakes all the way up to a grade 1, and it was disappointing for sure with the trip. But this is a good horse, and I mean it's just hard. You don't want to lose if you're live with if you beat some of those early favorites and you're live in the pick 5. You're going to be, how pissed are you going to be if you lose to a Chad Brown, Irad, Klarovich horse who just popped a 91 buyer last time out? I mean, it's more of, I don't want to lose to this horse. And on paper, I mean, from a buyer standpoint, it's run I think the best buyer by a decent amount. And then just looks on paper pretty good. Now the post can get in the way. There's some things that can get in the way in experience. But if you lose to this horse, you're just pissed in the end.
I mean, Pete, isn't a low 80s going to win this race? And even if she aggresses 10 points,
you would think, right? Yeah, because nobody else is really.
Win. And I'm sorry, Pete, and Paul. I just want to move things along here for Brian. Paul, you and I both have the 5. I think this is the horse that could upset the apple cart. I think Tyler could be aggressive. This Shug Train horse has some speed, has some back class, has been working well at Payson. Paul, this is an interesting horse to me.
Yeah, and I had to pick someone second, and I'm not, you'll see my ticket. I'm one of those who is going to be singled, and I hate being singled to the favorite in the anchor leg. But Salima would be somewhere between 1-5 and 1-9 in this race, wouldn't she? I mean, this horse, as Pete brings up, the 91 that she ran last time is 8 points better than any other horse has ever run. Again, we talked about the outside post. It's Irad. And again, it's a horse race. Anything can happen, but I think this is the most likeliest winner in the sequence by a mile.
Wow. Okay, well, there you go. Well, Brian, we're going to let you talk about your pick 5 ticket, and then the other three of us will discuss when you're off screen, because we want to let you go here. Brian, I offered, we decided, folks, to allow up to $100 because we've had such a successful last few weeks, and we want to give bigger tickets out. And Brian Nadal's like, we don't need 100. We don't even need 50. All we need here is $30. Brian's ticket is 13710 with 345 812 with 12 with 1 with 4 9 11 $30. Brian, pretty obvious your strategy. You're singling Colonel Liam and O'Connor and spreading elsewhere.
Yeah, if I didn't want to look like a total jackass, it would have been $10, and I would have singled at the end probably. I have a big thing, Howard. Don't look for something that's not there, and that's kind of what this ticket is to me. I'm comfortable with Colonel Liam. The other thing I wanted to say, the guys, made it a good point, but I'm more confident that Colonel Liam and O'Connor are going to run their race than the 11 horse in the final race, in a 1X or what have you, from a wide draw off 2 layoff line. So that's kind of another way how I looked at this ticket. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be alive after one race. I sure like to think so. And then from there, let's hope for maybe we get a little chaos in the Mr. Prospector, and then there are my 2 leans, and I've got some flexibility as I think it was Paul that said he doesn't like to be singled to the favor in the last leg. So, I've got a couple. The other good thing too is if you can get to race 11 and you have other options, she might play like 2 to 5 in that race, because anybody on a budget, that's where they're singling. She's the anchor too, especially because it's the last race. So she is going to be an absolute huge favorite.
Yeah, the pick 5s are going to be any other horse is going to be, I'd say, at least 3 times more than the 11. So, Brian, really appreciate you coming on tonight. It's great to have you on, man. It was good to see you again down at Gulfstream last weekend. Any final thoughts on the Pegasus? Anything coming up at Gulfstream? They've got, I know, starting in January, Stronach's going to have a coast-to-coast pick 5 Gulfstream in Santa Anita. I love that. Anything else you want to bring up for the fans watching tonight?
Yeah, that's definitely cool. It's a good bet with a low 15% takeout. Even Sunday, Howard, the newly minted 3-year-olds, would kind of start that path to the Florida Derby. Now, there's no, absolute tigers in there, but we start that path with the Mucho Macho Man and things like that. And just next week is next month, we've got the Holy Bull, obviously, on the path to the Fountain of Youth, and then the Florida Derby. So we're going to see it. There's a real crack maiden race on Saturday, race number 5, that's got several prospects that are, I'm sure their connections are expecting them to be Triple Crown candidates throughout the winter. So, we've gotten to that point now at Gulfstream Park where you can't really miss a Saturday or a Sunday, and the racing during the week's been good, and weather, knock on wood, permitting, we've got turf, and I don't need to tell you that's a pretty big deal these days to have turf, because some other places don't.
Perhaps in race 5 we can expect more from Expect More, the number 7 who finished 3rd, to a horse called Arabian Night who freaked on Breeders' Cup Day. Brian, thanks a lot for coming, man. Appreciate it. Please watch the Gulfstream simulcast feed. It's a great product. Ron Nicoletti, everyone there does a great job. You guys give fantastic coverage. Keep up the good work, man. And good luck this Saturday, Brian.
Yeah, Howard, thanks, guys. Great to be a part of it.
Hey, thanks, Brian.
All right,
take care, Brian. Have a great night. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All right, guys. Brian Nadal, great job. He was on fire today. He's a great guy, and he's genuine, and he knows what the hell he's talking about. He's exactly the kind of people we like to have on this show. Paul, let's go to your pick 5, sir.
Sure.
Your pick 5 is 1, 3, 4, 7, 10 with 4, 7, 12 with 7, 12 with 1, 2, 4 with 11. And if you listen for 45, Paul, I gave you a chance. I don't understand
read it wrong.
Paul.
No,
I don't get it. I gave you a chance to spend over 50, Pete, and the guy just spent, he's screwing with me. Now he spends 45. What the hell?
I read it wrong. I thought you were saying that our ABCs had to be 100. I gave your text a cursory read. So what I will do, Howard, I will simply play this for $1. 50 cents for the TRF and 50 cents for me.
Beautiful. Well, Paul, through the magic of StreamYard, if you'd like to double up or add a horse right now, I can do it without a problem. I'm serious about that if you'd like to.
No, I want to hit it twice. Greed is
You're in
good.
for $1. Okay. Paul, if you listened really carefully when I was reading off the numbers, there were people scribbling throughout the country, writing down this winning pick 5. Explain yourself, sir.
Well, and again, one of the reasons to play it twice is Brian makes a good point. That horse is going to be bet, but he also made a good point in not to look for something that isn't there. And I think that I just think the 11 is the most likely winner, so it happens to be in the last leg. If we're in the first leg, I'd do the same. Pet peeve I have is when people say, I don't want to single the first leg because I don't want to get knocked out early. Well, you got to hit 5 out of 5. So if you feel better missing the third leg, I feel pretty lousy when I don't hit 5 out of 5, regardless of what leg I miss.
I know that feeling. I know
it well.
I didn't know it last night at Turfway, though. That worked out well for me.
I saw that. So I'm spreading, and I think the 9. I only went in the 9th. I only went with Colonel Liam and City Man. I thought one of those two definitely wins, and I end up on the 11. I mean, I'll be playing an ABC, obviously, but this will be the Paul Halloran, Matt Miller TRF ticket that you're looking at. So.
I don't know if you are in contact with Matt Miller. You might want to text him because something happened crazy today.
I will.
Paul, you should get in touch with Matt, and I was somehow involved, so you should talk to Matt at some point.
Absolutely.
For good reasons. Pete, let's go to your pick 5. Pete's pick 5, and Pete crushed. Was it 2 weeks ago? Is that right, Pete? 310 with 3, 4, 5, 12, with 1, 7, 12, with 1, 4. With 3, 9, 11. So he's going 3 deep in the last in this caveman. Of course, we know your ABC is going to be different. That's a $72 ticket, Pete.
Yeah, and I think the one I would probably single Colonel Liam only because from a class perspective, I think he sort of towers over the field a little bit more than maybe even the other favorites. But I did think that there was enough against him to play a couple of horses that I liked. And then I went skinny in the first leg, even though I think there's probably 4 horses who can win. So I would probably do like an A with the 3 and the 10 and the B with the other 2. Deep in that second leg, I think that second leg is sort of wide open. A couple horses with Colonel Liam. And then I went with Simplification and O'Connor. And then in the last one, agree. But if for some reason the 11, I have the 3. We didn't talk about the 3. 20-1 morning line is just a horse that would need to take a huge step forward. But if just all hell breaks loose, then I like having a crazy price. And it was a horse that I thought, since that was the first race on the turf, second race lifetime, it was a really low buyer. But if there's any sort of jump forward and something else happens, she's not that far off where the other horses are. So who the hell knows? But for 20-1, I'll take a shot. But go ahead, Howard. You're going to say something.
Raced last time at the Saratoga of the Midwest, Hawthorne Racecourse.
Hawthorne Racecourse.
Proud sponsor, by the way, of the HHP.
I support our sponsors, obviously, so I picked their horses coming in. So,
for sure.
So that was it. But I do think the 11 is I'm with you. There's a couple potential singles, but none of them are so definitive that I'd be 100% confident singling any of them.
All right, guys, here's our weekly game with Howard's pick 5. Did he single anyone? And if he did, who was it? Paul, what do you think?
I think you singled O'Connor.
Pete.
No, you don't singles. Oh,
the sage sleuth, Paul, is correct. My $72 pick 5 is 1, 3, 7, 10 with 3, 5, 7, 8, 11, 12 with 1, 7, 12 with the 1 O'Connor with 5, 11. It's a $72 ticket. Here's the thing. I think it's interesting with Colonel Liam, market segmentation, and O'Connor. I think not only do you have to decide who's the most vulnerable favorite, but you also have to decide which field has the most amount of horses that could beat that likely favorite. You know what I mean? And I just think if O'Connor runs his race, I don't like a lot of the others in there. Meanwhile, the last race, of course, I'm not playing 5 equally with 11 on an ABC. 11's my lone A, but there's some interesting horses in the last race, like your 3-peat, or you can come with some other horses that might beat the 11. And then I'm against Colonel Lee, and he was supposed to run. We didn't even say this, guys. He was supposed to run an allowance race, or maybe Brian said it.
Brian
That
mentioned
didn't
it. Yeah.
fill. So they were trying to get an easy race into him, and now they've got a much tougher race. I mean, obviously, he's the horse to beat. I'm just against him. I'm completely against Papa Cap, so I'm fascinated to see how right or how wrong I am on Saturday. I think the second race, guys, is the spread. The Mr. Prospector, there's a ton of speed. I have no idea. The break is going to be huge. We didn't even talk about a horse like the 12 Seal Beach, who ran a huge race out of nowhere last time and knocked me out of the Hawthorne contest that day because I liked a bunch of others. So that race to me I have absolutely no clue. So I would go as deep as possible there, guys. As we wrap up the show, any final thoughts, Paul, Pete? Paul, let you go first. Any final thoughts about things coming up this weekend? Anything in your life personally you want to share? Anything at all?
I would just say that Aqueduct will have a mandatory payout in their pick 6 on Saturday because one meet ends on Saturday and another one opens on Sunday. So
mandatory pick 6.
And
Tampa ticket question mark.
Tampa will have going into tomorrow an $84,000 pick 5 carryover.
Oh, tomorrow at Tampa, the late pick 5?
Yes, I believe if it carries, it goes to the late. Yep.
And you know what? Also, just for people that are fans of him, the horse Kinchin is running at Tampa tomorrow. Kinchin was named after Jonathan Kinchin's father, who passed away. And that horse was off a long layoff, ran it, I think, at Belmont Aqueduct and didn't run well a few months ago, but he's running a maiden race and he's even money. I think it's outside. I think it's race 5. I think it's outside late pick 5 at Tampa. For those of you who are fans of Jonathan Kinchin, the horse Kinchin runs tomorrow at Tampa. Interesting. I will definitely be playing that late pick 5 at Tampa tomorrow, Paul. Pete, any thoughts? And we saw you sent out a picture of you and Jackson for your birthday. That was really nice. And any thoughts you have right now, Pete?
No, it's a good sequence, and we're getting to, it's an exciting time where you're turning the calendar over, especially for horse racing. Now we start kicking into the Derby preps, which will run us from now till the first Saturday in May, which is awesome. And then if you're any other sports fans, you got NFL winding down, you have the college football, semifinals on the 31st. So it's a pretty big sports weekend all the way around. So it's just a good one. And I mean, it's, Happy New Year to everybody too.
Yeah.
Guys, my last screw up of the year. Apparently Kinchin ran. I didn't even know he was in the entries for Saturday, but I guess he ran 3rd. So, okay. Thank you, Dewey Fan and Matthew.
Well,
a fitting way to end the year for Howard.
Well, I was going to say something. It's maybe your last screw up on the podcast, but there's still a couple of days left, so I'm not counting on it being your last official screw up.
Fair enough. Well, let me pinch myself. Yes, I'm human. Just want to double check. Guys, in all seriousness, I'll say the final comments of 2022. It's been an unbelievable year for this podcast. I don't want to get sentimental tonight. I want to keep it, a positive and upbeat. But we've had so many great guests on this year. With the addition of you guys and Kyle as official co-host starting around May, just added the show tremendously. I can't thank you guys enough. We've had so many great moments. I mean, I don't even know where to begin from. Tipping out, people coming on, Jessica Paquette, tipping out a horse at 10-1.
Society
with, a lot of other great guests we have for the first time. The surprise Brittany Urton visit. I mean, just so many great memories that we have of this year. And this thing just continues to grow with the support we have. We're going to cross 200,000 views, this weekend, and we're approaching 2,000 subscribers. It just keeps going up and up. And I just want to thank all the viewers and listeners out there for your tremendous support. We could not do it without you guys. And we have a lot of exciting things coming up, guys, in 2023. We've got a new show. We've got a new background. We have new sponsorship. By the way, coming up, a new stable is going to join us. Just officially took care of that, by the way, tonight. I'll tell you guys about it off screen here in just a second. We have a new sponsor for January and February. And also, guys, and it's not we haven't decided on yet, but it's going to happen. Just got an invite from Hawthorne today for another pool party, which was sort of that live show that we do. It's going to be at the same place. And guess what the day they would like us to do it on? That's right, Pegasus Day. So very good chance we're going to have a live show from the Lucky Poor OTB, and again, in the suburbs of Chicago for Pegasus Day. And I have a entry in the Pegasus betting challenge, guys, because of my score earlier in March. So Pegasus Day could be super exciting here on the HHH Racing Podcast. For my good friends and co-hosts, Pete Visco and Paul Halloran, this has been Howard Krabs. It's been episode 216 of the HHH Racing Podcast. We want to wish everyone a very happy new year, and we will see you in 2023. Good luck with your bets on Saturday. Take care, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night.
Happy New Year.